Welcome back to the Umbrella Hour. This is Dr. On and Zander Keig, licensed social worker, and Zander will be introducing our guest.
Yes, thank you, On. Well, we have a really wonderful guest on the show. This is Dr. Courtney Ziegler. He is an award-winning entrepreneur who has built several solution-driven products to support the Black diaspora. He's currently the CEO and founder of WellMoney, which is a community-driven mutual aid platform that covers financial emergencies. I'm really looking forward to hearing more about that. He holds a PhD in African American Studies from Northwestern University. Welcome to the show, Courtney.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. We actually know each other personally, so it might be good for the audience to know that I can't remember exactly when we met. Now, I haven't lived in San Francisco, and that's where we met for a number of years, so it's been a while.
I think it was at I helped plan a trans conference with Transgender Law Center, perhaps.
Oh.
I've not lived in San Francisco in a long time either, so I feel like it's like a foreign land to me now. But yeah, I think that's where we first connected at, and that was, wow, a long time ago.
That might have been 2007.
Had to be over 10 years ago for sure, I think.
Yeah. All right. Well, it's good to reconnect. We're living in very different parts of the world now. You are in South Africa, so we could probably talk a little bit about that. I'm really interested in hearing more about WellMoney. What was the reason that you started this company? What are you doing? And what do you want the listeners to know about what WellMoney is and how they can support the work that you're doing?
Yeah, definitely. I've been in the technology space since 2013, and I started with an organization called Transact, where it was really focused on, at the time in my life, I had a really difficult time finding employment. I had just completed my PhD, and my life was really, really difficult. And so I was living in Oakland at the time, the Bay Area, and started a vintage store with my partner at the time. And that kind of led me down the entrepreneurial road of network with other entrepreneurs in the Bay Area, which is like really like a second wave tech boom was happening. Twitter and all these other companies were really starting to take reign in San Francisco. And so people were moving there. And I had a really difficult time finding a job and taking care of myself as a grown adult. And I was like, it would be really awesome if there was a space where we can leverage technology to improve the lives of transgender people. And so I launched Transact in 2013. And it became the first organization ever in the technology industry focused on creating actual real working products to get trans people jobs or help improve trans education or any other professional development opportunities that the technology space had and the resources that it provided. So since then, I've been involved with a number of technology-based platforms that are specifically geared towards helping marginalized individuals, including trans folks, but low income individuals, people who have like kind of the least amount of financial support in their lives. And in that trajectory, I ended up at WellMoney recently, which is right now, we are a mutual aid platform, are inspired by mutual aid platforms. Basically, the idea is that we are a community of folks where everybody contributes whatever they can each month to a pool of funds. And if you happen to have an emergency under $200, like if you need to pay your rent or get to school or get to your job or get some medication that you do not have money for, you can submit a confidential request to the community and we'll get that money to you within 48 hours. And so it's been a real awesome journey. I spent the past 2 years building the product, talking to people, getting feedback, again, really going towards grassroots understandings of mutual aid. Before we started recording, Zander mentioned like listservs and like these old school forms of mutual aid and like how WellMoney takes it a step above that. So really wanting to leverage things that have worked.
You were talking about the platform WellMoney and how people can go in and give money on a monthly basis, and then people can come in and request up to $200. So a lot of times people are like, $200, what good is that for? So much, right? So
So
much can be
much.
done with $200 just to patch you through. $200 can get you food for a week. $200 can get you fill up your gas tank. $200 can get you
Exactly.
bus fare. There's a lot of things that $200 can do. It can get the bill collectors off your back, if they're hounding you for
Exactly.
things. Now, are you in beta still with WellMoney?
We open up to the public and anyone can join now. I am in the moment currently fundraising to scale the platform. We've been very successful at proving the viability of the model. Like we distributed over $25,000 in the past 6 months. Like $50 here to someone, $75 here. And you're very right in that like most of the people ask me, potential funders, won't people just take the money and run? Why would I give my money to something and I may never have an emergency? And we've proven that actually when people do get $50 or some sort of support that they're able to continue living, not have no major disruption in their life, that they're like so grateful that they're like, you know what, I'm going to give another $5 to the pool of money this month. So then someone else gets supported in a different way. And we're helping people, again, stay in their homes, get urgent medicine, car repair. A couple of people had needed money for pet support, which are family members for some of us. And so those things are really important. And our main goal is to try and help put a dent in the, almost a third of Americans who cannot afford a $400 emergency. Can't pay it. Like they'll like go to payday lending or ask family members for funds, which, cause discord amongst family members. And sometimes don't even have that to give to somebody else. Or they do a crowd fund, which puts their personal information in a public manner in a very kind of sometimes embarrassing way for some folks, right? And so, yeah, our motto, everything's anonymous. When we distribute money to someone, the community knows on the platform the way the software is built. When someone does get support, they're able to send a note of gratitude to the community. Again, all completely anonymous, so nobody knows anyone. And I think that increases giving because there's no bias involved. It's just like, I know somebody needs some money, but let me just put it in this pool of funds. So that's what WellMoney is. Yeah.
When you mentioned that some of the funders were reluctant, did they stay with you? And have they, obviously from that experience, have they changed their perspectives?
I'm now reapproaching people over the next few months, and it's great that people listening to this, you can visit WELL-money.com to not only join us. Yeah, I'm having to educate funders of veering away from traditional ways of proving philanthropic models work, right? Oh, there's, what's your impact? It's like, oh, the impact is showing, again, people are staying in their houses and getting to work. And even though they get money, we have some people contributing as little as $1 per month to the pool of funds. But again, our data has shown that 94% of the people that have gotten some financial support from WellMoney have come back to increase their contributions, proving the skeptics wrong. They're like, people aren't taking the money and running. If you meet people where they're at and with dignity and respect, they will understand the interconnectedness of all of us and be like, again, more encouraged to want to give more to others. So I'm going back to those funders now because I need money to scale the company. And now I have actual real world data to show them, to be like, see, this is what we've done. And now a lot of other organizations that are, again, about giving, we have information to show that we can approach giving in a different manner. It can be anonymous and it can be non-biased. People don't have to always perform poverty or worthiness to gain access to money. We can redistribute it very differently. So that's what I'm proving to funders now. I hope they come back and write us a check for sure.
Traditional way of raising funds does have drawbacks because if you look at community foundations in general, you're required to earn a certain income. And then, of course, they have their set of rules and regs. And I think it does get in the way of being able to do things outside of that for people unless you do it on your own accord. as a philanthropist.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. No, I just want to say, you're right. And that one of the things I think it's really cool about myself being a founder and the CEO is like, I get to lead the direction, and being the entrepreneur, go against what people normally think are traditions, because it's a business venture and I get to experiment. But yeah, you do hit the walls of like, you still have to navigate the spaces of antiquated ways of thinking, I think, with money and giving money out. So I'm up to the challenge though. So
That's awesome. You mentioned that when people are receiving money, that oftentimes they will then give money into the pool. Does somebody have to be part of WellMoney as a giver to be able to be a receiver of funds?
that's a great question. And as it stands right now, officially, yes. We did that so for trust and transparency. We're building a community. And when we spoke to people, it was very important for, again, not for people to have, I need to get a sob story. That doesn't need to happen anymore. I just need to know that someone needs some money and I'm going to get it to them. But at the same time, I need to know that my money is being used for what is requested. And we've had to design the software in ways that members are the only ones who can request money. However, they can use that money to help other people. And it has shown that people have requested money. One person actually requested money. And as long as you pay into the pool every month and your membership, and we make it very clear that a percentage of the funds go to WellMoney operations. So we're very transparent about that. Like, as long as you keep WellMoney running and we're able to give people money, if you request money and you want to give that to someone else who needs it, that's no problem. But we do extend approved financial requests for paying members only at this point. We want to do it in a way that maybe in the future, if you do have someone who's a friend, that like you can just perhaps send them a link of some cash already from the pool of funds. That's further down the road when we do get funding to scale beyond what we've been able to accomplish over the last year.
It sounds like a really worthwhile but also necessary business that you're doing. I'm really happy to hear more about it. Again, for people, it's WELL-money.com. Yes?
Yes. Yeah.
Can people request money more than once then? Is there a cap on maybe once a month or once a quarter? Is there any cap at all? There's a cap on the dollar amount, but is there a cap on how many times people can request funds?
There's a cap on the dollar amount, but there's unlimited requests until you hit that dollar amount cap. And we've only been in operations fully less than a year. So our goal is to kind of restart that cap within the next year. That's on the roadmap as well. We're relatively new. Like I said, we went open to the public last October, and we're establishing trust as a new company and a company moving money around. And also, again, going against traditional philanthropic. Like, we're not like a GoFundMe or where you just like Akiva, where you go to a website and you like see a story and like, I'm going to give money to that. And I know, and there's a ticker that's going to go up and I know the goal is met. Very different type of platform. So we have a lot of work to do in that regard, but we have over 1,200 active users, grow every day, which is awesome. And yeah, go to wellmoney.com. And you can also, if you are not a member, you can give once to our pool of funds if you want to. And we encourage people to become a member because we built a community. Like, we have exclusive resources that make the lives of all of our members more prosperous and less expensive. And so that's really important for us too.
That's wonderful. And so you did mention that there are some other platforms where you read a story, you give a certain amount of money. I've done that in the past. And one of the features of those platforms is that you get your money back over a period of time. Is WellMoney more like a grant that doesn't need to be repaid back?
Exactly. We're a gift. Yeah. That's a great question because people are like, well, how do you have to pay it back? So that's our unique proposition. We're not alone. It's okay to just give money to people without expecting them to pay it back. And we're going against, again, cash advance platforms or payday lending where, yeah, people do take out loans for $100 and then they owe like $1,000 back, right? And so why penalize when there's someone who has $100, who is someone who I make X amount of money per year, or I already give to charities or give to strangers in particular. I already give this amount of strangers per year. My job as the founder of WellMoney is to find those people and recruit them to my platform so they can continue distributing to strangers. And it's not through a nonprofit. There's less overhead. Again, make it very clear about how much is for WellMoney operation, and really just want to give people money, like from people who have it. So it's the main goal.
Absolutely. You know, the Umbrella Hour is a show on the UK Health Radio Network. And so when we think about health and wellness, right, there's so many different aspects of wellness. And I consider that a part of wellness is also financial or, our socioeconomics. And is that where WellMoney, the title is well, meaning the well-being, the wellness? Is that where that comes from?
Exactly. I need you on the WellMoney team, Zander, because that's exactly what I was inspired about, wanting to think about community. We're all pulling from a well. It's a pool of funds, but also for our well-being and our wellness, that we need community is important for that. And being able to access money, no one should be prohibited from that. I am a true believer, again, that there's more than enough wealth and abundance in the world to help every single human being on the planet. Some people hoard money. Some people don't know what to do with the amount of money they have, and they need to be told how to give it away. And so I think that that's part of even my journey as an entrepreneur, is to create wellness amongst all types of people. And so, yes, that's where the name WellMoney comes from. I talked to a VC asking for money to write a check, and he was like, I hate the name, hate it. And I was like, I may not want a check from you. I was like, you didn't even, like, I hate it. I hate that. It's like, okay. So,
I don't think people understand how significant to our well-being finances are, right? That when people are unemployed or underemployed and there's a lack of resources, financial resources, then what are people going to be concerned about? Homelessness. They're going to be concerned about access to food, right? Nourishment. They're going to be concerned about the ability to go to work, even if they're underemployed. They need money for everything. Now, of course, we could all check out and go live in a commune or a kibbutz or some intentional housing somewhere around the world where everybody's pulling all the resources together. But most of us don't live in those kind of environments. And we know in the trans community that it's not about experience and it's not about education. We are disproportionately unemployed and underemployed.
We are taking our first commercial break. We will be back shortly.
UK Health Radio, the station that makes you feel good. UK Health Radio, the station that makes you feel good.
Let's pick up where we left off.
We know in the trans community that it's not about experience and it's not about education. We are disproportionately unemployed and underemployed. And so the finance issue is so significant to our community. We have individuals who are risking their lives every day, surviving or struggling to survive on street economies. And so the ability to have access to a platform like this, WellMoney, to be able to, again, maybe they can only give $1, and then maybe later on they can give $3 and $5, and they can start to, as we used to say, pay it forward, right? That's it reminds me of that concept of pay it forward. But I don't think that people appreciate how, as a mental health provider, I immediately think of how people can become despondent, depressed, feel hopeless, helpless, and that can lead to suicidal ideation. And unfortunately, even further than that, this is a real issue. It plagues our world, our nation here in the United States, where On and I are, but also our community specifically in the trans community. There's such again, we are highly educated as a community and yet find ourselves, a lot of us struggling, as you talked about, struggling to find work after getting a doctorate degree. Like, that's ridiculous. That's just ridiculous.
Do you plan to do data collection for purposes of determining where the most needs are?
Oh, definitely. We actually just finished our impact report. I'm actually sharing it to the world this month, where most of our, like 71% of our requests cover basic cost of living, which we're including housing, rent, utilities. 5% have covered health care expenses. Another 6% has covered professional development opportunities. Like, people like, I use the money to try to look for a job or something. And the way the software is designed is that when you do submit a request for support, you only click a button of what you needed, like it's just icons of food, housing, those things. So yes, the numbers show that we are, again, just trying to stay afloat in the United States, getting food. And so that's the majority of the help that we have been supported. And then there's a small percentage of even, I think like 3%. And again, we have 1,200 active users so far. So it's a good number of information and numbers to work with. I think that it will, like, as we grow and scale, those numbers won't shift to how much we're basically helping people eat and pay rent. Which speaks to like other things that are happening in the United States, that the cost of living is, I mean, it's hard for a lot of people to kind of live in the US right now. And so as things get more and more expensive, and we're talking about, yeah, inflation's down, but people are still, as soon as we hang up today, again, I'm in South Africa, so I work at night here, just in the morning in the US. I'm going to go check the requests and send some money to someone today, and I'm pretty sure it's going to be for either housing or food, since that's the majority of the support that we help people with.
Are you all over the world, or are you primarily starting in the US and then you plan to cover the entire world?
I would like to focus we're only based in the US now, and I think I would like to spend a lot of time. I want to spend at least 5 more years dedicated to this project, because in the United States, there's lots of guaranteed income or basic income pilots and programs that people have, thrown tons of millions and millions and millions of dollars at, just to come to the same conclusion that people need money. Yes, I have actual data now that shows that people are buying food to stay in their warm house. So it's very important for me to really, again, help solve the problem of 1/3 of Americans not being able, $400. So I'm hoping that we can help with 300 next year and really get to that 400 and become a really significant player of emergency funding in the United States. That's the long-term vision that I see WellMoney. If it's in some ways goes into international, helping others, I would hope that other companies or businesses or organizations really take on the model of anonymous gifting, which is like really at our core. I think that's what we're doing very uniquely differently, that I feel like can really impact the problem in the United States.
So as of right now, people can request up to $200. Your goal is to increase that to 300 and ultimately get to 400 and maybe max out at 400, or
keep going. Who knows? Like, I follow the internet my whole life, and then also professionally now, working in the tech space for the past over 10 years, and seeing people, crowdfunding platforms, people raise money for potato salad and raise $20 million just because people want to see it as a joke, right? There have been so many instances of just ridiculous things getting money thrown at them because there's so much abundance and wealth. So I think the sky is the limit. But pragmatically and business-wise, I know that right now this is what we offer, and I want to increase that. I want to get to that point of helping people with a $400 emergency. Because if we go past that, then we would have solved a major problem in America, which I think that anything is possible. But yeah, I think that there's so many ways to help people in excess of $400 that WellMoney, once we again are able to scale, we'll be able to help solve and figure out.
I just remember, and I mentioned this in a previous show, when we were working with someone from the Bay Area, and Zander will remember this, Reverend Dr. Megan Rohr. And I had mentioned the extreme difference in Oakland these days with the increase in homelessness. And I know it's not just Oakland. I know it's everywhere. And we're seeing it here as well. And I just read an article this morning, actually, about the link to just the financial struggles all around the world because of COVID that struck at such an unexpected time, and what it did to people, and how critical that is to recognize that people have not recovered.
And yeah, you're right. Probably won't recover. And homelessness has increased across the United States. And again, when we see 71% of our funds going people who are expenses related to staying in their home, there's a direct correlation between that. And COVID really actually was one of the inspirations of WellMoney. Before I was building this, I built a platform called Abolition, which was focused on getting people out of jail by paying bail, crowdsourced bail. And that was wildly successful. And then wildly successful. And then COVID hit, and my family depended on me for, the $50, the $75 in ways that it wasn't before. And just seeing like how everybody was impacted differently, but also seeing how our government actually did give money away, right? There's stimulus checks, and like we saw tweet threads with people being like, I need groceries, and like people rallying around. Like mutual aid was like really, even the term, we were like, we know what mutual aid is. All of these things are so interconnected right now, and makes me even think that why WellMoney, I think, is so uniquely positioned to be super successful and make such a significant impact, because of all of these things of addressing homelessness when it's on the rise, and we're witnessing it like right in front of our faces. I consume a lot. I mean, I stay on top of American politics. I got to travel home like every 3 months for work. But I was watching something the other day that was, the stereotypes of the continent of Africa, and I live in Johannesburg, and South Africa is going through it right now, I think, with their economy and like where they're trying to position themselves, the East versus West conversations that are being held in economics and BRICS and things like that. Not a very clean city. No offense, Johannesburg, South Africa. What we call our downtown, they call it CBD. It's like really, really not that clean. And then I saw a tweet thread, it's like, well, now Africa looks like America. And they put up like, it was like, CBD of Johannesburg, downtown Los Angeles. It was very evident about how the stereotypes of Africa are being troubled now, because you can see extremely similar images now in the richest country in the world. Yes, all these conversations are so happening in accordance with each other at the same time that, man, I'm excited to be building a product that's helping to solve an important problem, which I definitely believe we are.
Absolutely. You mentioned, of course, that you live in South Africa, in Johannesburg. You were born and raised in the United States. We met when you lived in California. And you had mentioned, maybe it was when we were before filming or before recording, you said you'd been there about 2 years. What took you to South Africa? And are you there for the long haul, or is this temporary?
I'm not sure if I'm here for the long haul. I flew here in December 2019. It was like my last year, my 30s. And I was like, I had gone through a breakup, and a friend lives here, and I had moved here from Oakland, actually. And I was like, I'm going to come visit. I've never been to South Africa. Yes, it was right before COVID and right before everybody was in lockdown. So it was the last moment of the world. And I spent a month here and came into 2020 in a beautiful party, mountains of South Africa. And I met someone, and I fell in love, and I just kept coming back. And then WellMoney is an established company in the United States. We operate out of the United States, but I get to still work from anywhere. And so I chose to start to set up roots here because my partner lives here. And I guess now my family lives here. But yeah, like I said, I go back and forth to the United States, but I actually have a home here in South Africa. And I like it. It's a little bit it's interesting, the world now in terms of politics, and it's always going to be interesting being a foreigner in a foreign place. I'm also moving here as a grown adult, approaching middle age, if not in middle age. So that's a very different experience than maybe a younger person moving here. So, but it's interesting to be witness to, again, their shifting economy and political conversations being had here. And man, just watching it as someone who's like, man, I'm not even a citizen. I'm just observing how you guys operate ideologically and like what you're doing. So those things I really learn. I love learning and improving and growing as a person. But I really enjoy living in South Africa. Like it's a beautiful country. I love my family here. It's just a long flight back home. But other than that, it's pretty long flights. Yeah. I do see myself being here for quite some time.
Have you connected in at all with if there is such a thing as the trans community in Johannesburg? It's like there are trans people all over the world, but it's not always either possible or safe for people to congregate. So is there a sense of a trans community where you're at, and have you plugged into it at all? Yeah.
Great question. South Africa is a pretty liberal, for lack of a better term. Whoever's listening to this, don't fight me over that term, liberal. Or maybe open-minded in a lot of ways. Let's say that progressive. Some progressive laws. They have legalized gay marriage here, even before the United States. So that's really awesome and rad. Very open queer community here. My partner runs film screening night where she invites filmmakers to show their work and have a Q&A and after. And they showed I had the premiere of So Black here, which is my film about Black trans men. And yes, the next film after that was about their trans directors. And so I've met a lot of the whole TV shows featuring trans women here. So I've met a lot of trans people here. And one of the things that was awesome when I did show my film, quite a few people came. I knew of being a trans man because of your work, and they're not even American at all. Humbling that my life has brought me here, and my work brought me here way before my physical presence was here. It was like 20 years ago I made that stuff. So like I've met many, many trans people, and for the most part, it's they have, again, laws to protect all types of queer people. Gender-based violence is really held in high regard here. Yeah, there's very public conversations about trans lives being sustained and protected, and very vocal activists. Not very knowledgeable about that before coming here. And so, like, wow, my mind was blown too. Like, okay, cool. Yes, many trans people. So
it's awesome that people were able to see your film. When we make a film or we write a book or anything that we put out into the world, we literally have no idea how far it's going to go, how many people are going to see it. And then all of a sudden to move from California to South Africa and then hear that something that you made 20 years ago had such an impact on people. I mean, that's truly remarkable. I'm so happy to hear that, Courtney. I feel a little emotional about it because it's we have no idea. Like, I'm sure you could have never imagined that your film would touch the lives of trans people.
Never. And like, I've known the film has gotten to travel the world. I'm very blessed and again, very humbled to have been able to be a part of it. But when I make such a major life move, giving up my apartment in Oakland that I lived in for 10 years with nice rent control and a beautiful view, working in the technology industry and making nice money and keeping that apartment, is like, no, I'm going to give it up and move my life to the other part of the world, a completely entire different continent. It's winter here, completely entire different hemisphere, right? Culture, language, all of that stuff. and then still have such a soft landing, and that the universe so lovingly reminds me that of course you're meant to be here. Like I said, your work has been here even before you're here, and now you caught up to it, and people get to talk to you in person about your work. That's beautiful. I cry too. I'm just like, whoa, how lucky am I? But it's one of those moments where it stabilizes and strengthens my faith in everything that I do and what I believe in, and to know that like I do have a purpose in life. And it's those moments that I'm continuously reminded, like, oh, this is my purpose. I get it. I'm supposed to be doing this. I'm doing the right thing. Even with WellMoney, I whatever happens in the future of WellMoney, because building a company is hard, and building anything is hard. I'm not going to try to say building a company is harder than building anything else. Building something of value is hard, something that is really meaningful and helps people in a number of people, even if it's one person. Building something of value that helps someone is really important for me.
We are going to take our second commercial break. We'll be back shortly to pick up where we left off.
UK Health Radio, the station that makes you feel good. UK Health Radio, the station that makes you feel good.
We are back from second break. Our guest this hour is Dr. Courtney Ziegler. We will do a short replay and continue where we left off.
Building a company is hard, and building anything is hard. I'm not going to try to say building a company is harder than building anything else. Building something of value is hard, something that is really meaningful and helps people in a number of people, even if it's one person. Building something of value that helps someone is really important for me. If I move somewhere else in 20 years, who knows if I'll meet another person who's like, thank you for that. And I'll be reminded at that point, that I knew my life had purpose, what I was supposed to do. So that's what South Africa has done for me in a lot of ways. So very grateful to be here. It's difficult sometimes. It can be lonely. I'm a foreigner, but I do enjoy those moments those teary moments that I get to experience. So
it's really powerful when you probably look back from where you came, right? You went from the tech industry to doing something amazing with it. Your PhD in African studies certainly has played a role in that. Just the mere fact that some individuals in the world just can't fathom why someone couldn't get a job, or it's pretty awesome that you've done what you've done. I wish you a lot of success. Zander and I both experienced homelessness, so we can relate, and certainly also from the aspect that, I don't know if Zander experienced this, but I know for myself, people really didn't understand. And when you are homeless, people don't even look you in the face. You don't exist. You're, you're not there. Yeah.
I've been homeless more than once in my life. When I was younger, some of it was when I was really young because I was a runaway. So that's a form of homelessness, as a runaway. But when I was a little bit older and experienced homelessness, I found myself going to 2 different shelters, and both of them were religious. And so they had their requirements for Bible study and things. So I went to a shelter in Tucson, Arizona, but then I stayed in a religious shelter run by open and affirming gay and lesbian Christian church in San Diego. This was back in the early 90s. So it was a little bit bizarre to be in this gay and lesbian environment where there was required Bible study. I didn't want to go downtown. And so this was one that was like in the neighborhood, it was closer to what I was familiar with. And then eventually, when I became a social worker, I ended up working on the healthcare for homeless veterans team at the VA in San Francisco, and then Oakland, California, and also San Diego. So to be on the other end of it. And one of the things you mentioned was how many people, the percentage of people that have requested funds through WellMoney for housing purposes. And I got to tell you, after working with homeless veterans in particular, that the ability to retain housing is much easier than rapid rehousing, where somebody actually loses their housing or is about to lose it, and you have to relocate them somewhere else, right? It's much more expensive to do that because at the time that it takes to find a new place, putting down a new deposit, first and last month's rent, which they require in most of California, if not all of it. It's easier to keep somebody in their housing if you can negotiate with a landlord or a management company to keep them there rather than rapid rehousing or having to go into transitional housing and then looking for permanent housing while you're in that space. Like, it's the cost to the taxpayer, the cost to the individual emotionally, mentally, the work that it puts on the case worker, so to speak, or who's working with them. It's much better to be able to give somebody a couple $100 so they can stay where they are. If it's safe. Now we have to be able to think about it. There might be some reasons why environment is not safe and they need to get out. And that's different than that's a housing issue, but it's different from homelessness. But they could end up homeless because they're in an unsafe environment. And we know that happens for trans people, that they end up living in a space that's unsafe, unwelcome for them, whether it's their parents' home, it's a place they share with their partner, the neighbors that they are living next to. It might be unsafe and they need to go somewhere else.
Yeah, definitely. And thanks for sharing your experience about that, because it's so much more expensive. And it's cheaper to prevent. Like, yeah, $200. Like I'm saying, like literally people like, thank you. I literally needed to pay this extra money for rent or something where I wasn't going to get evicted. And, there are different laws all over the country, like which is like, I was lucky to be from California and have California renters protection in a lot of ways. Having to get the money to find somewhere else, to get the money to pay the multiple fees you got to pay before moving in, credit checks, are things, even like all these other external factors that are quite expensive. So my main goal with this entity is to really solve that problem. $200 is cheaper than millions of dollars, which is what is happening in America. And again, there's so much money, there's so much wealth, there's so much. Even I talk to foundations. We love what you're doing with WellMoney. This is so amazing. We want to challenge how we even give out money, but we're not going to give you money yet because we want to get to that point, but fundamentally and bureaucratically, our organization even is not even there where we want to be, where you are, but we can't catch up yet. Wow, there's all this work of like trying to prove to people where if we do it now, I promise you, more people will be able to stay in their homes because it's cheaper. So it's like this battle of education, of actually moving money around and fighting against dated ways of thinking. So push back against those things and help people.
It is needed. You mentioned early on that your sort of your first iteration into tech was with TransHack. And I'm wondering, is TransHack still operational?
No, TransHack is no longer operational, but the beautiful thing about it is that because that was so widely successful, it birthed so many organizations and initiatives. It changed the entire tech industry. It launched conversations on bathroom policies, which became like legally implemented in companies where there's bathroom laws and coverages for medical surgeries and things like that. So it lives on in the impact that it's made. But as an organization, I sunsetted 2016 because I started building another company at that moment. And so other people took the reins. And then, to this day, there's still organizations that were inspired by TransHack that are focused on trans-centered technologies or education or professional development opportunities for trans and non-binary people to advance in the technology industry. So TransHack it changed the world. So that was awesome. But I think there's so many problems that I want to help solve. My productivity world is slowing down. Like, not just alone, Courtney. So there's different things that I want to give my time and energy to and also, I'm slowing down as a person. I'm getting older. With WellMoney, I want to spend at least 10 more years. So I said 5 to 10 more years on this to really help so many more people. I know we're going to help millions.
Courtney, if I missed this, forgive me, but when did you officially transition? Was it a long time ago?
At 24. I am 42 now. So
That's about 18 years ago, right?
Mm-hmm.
That might be part of the reason why we met each other too, because I'm at 18 years also of medical transition. We're right about the same time point, so to speak. And when people talk about like how old they are, and there's my chronological age, but in some ways there's my trans age as well. When people say, oh, we go through a second puberty, we literally do go through like a second puberty physiologically, but we're also going through a re-education, a reawareness of how to live in the world in a different way, like an adolescent goes through, observing individuals and listening to things and trying different things out. And that's a lot harder to do. I found it to be a fairly difficult thing to do in my early 40s, trying to do things like teenagers do, which is trying different things out. Kept it mostly to myself. It's not like I changed how I dressed or anything. It's like trying to figure out, well, who am I now? Who can I be? Who do I want to be? We could totally, we're remaking ourselves physically and neurologically in some case, but we can remake ourselves in a lot of different ways, which is why people move to new states or countries, take new jobs. We get a do-over, and most people don't get do-overs unless they've been near-death experiences and they have such a profound impact on them that they completely change their lives. And I think that's something that we are also able to do.
And that's a great explanation. New awareness during transition. There's also what you said earlier, like just age. Do you ever feel grown up? I was watching something the other day, and it was a guy that he was talking about why when we get older, time literally moves faster, and just how our bodies move through space differently, and how our brains, like we lose curiosity, and so that like speeds up because we like all our anxieties and stresses and all of these things. And that inspires me to also value my time.
We've come to the end of our hour, and I've enjoyed our conversation. How nice that you're in South Africa. That was my mother's dream, to be able to go back someday. So you can kiss the earth for me if you like.
I will. Visit it again. I want everybody the number one country to visit in 2023. Come visit South Africa.
Courtney, one of the things that you said, and I think it's so evident, we've demonstrated it through just this short conversation today, right? You have made such an impact through your life by making a film, by creating a tech revolution, being you and doing the things that you want to do. And so my hope is that you continue to make a significant impact that you are making now, that you will continue to make on behalf of not just the trans community, but on the human scale.
Definitely. Thank you so much. Thanks for having me. It was a great conversation, and I'm always privileged and honored to be granted space to talk about my work and my journey.
Thanks very much. We have come to the end of the Umbrella Hour. Our guest this hour was Dr. Courtney Ziegler. Our next guests will be Aaron Kimberly and Aaron Terrell. We hope that you will join us next time. Thank you for listening.